Hey there! So in our last video, we derived the equation of a circle in standard form using the Pythagorean theorem. And in these next 4 examples, we are going to use that equation to answer some questions about circles. So just to review again, we've got our standard equation of a circle. We said that h comma k is the ordered pair that represents the center of the circle, and the radius is r. So in example 1, if we look at this equation that we're given, we just want to pick out what is h and what is k. So remember that when there's subtraction, h is actually positive because our standard form is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared. So when we see that positive 8, it might be helpful for us to rewrite that as, instead of y plus 8 squared, we could rewrite that as y minus negative 8 squared. So for our center, for example 1, our center is going to be the ordered pair 5 comma negative 8. And then lastly, that 25 is not our radius, but it's our radius squared. So if our radius squared is 25, we just take the square root. We know that when we solve a quadratic, that could be a positive or a negative, but in this case, a radius can only be positive. So the radius of that circle is positive 5. All right, moving on. For example 2, write the standard equation of the circle given the center and the radius. So again, we just want to follow that. We want to use our formula that we derived. So h comma k is going to be 3 negative 4. And our radius is 8. So the formula requires us to use the radius squared. And we know 8 squared, or 8 times 8, is just 64. So as we write our equation, we're going to have x minus h. Well, our h value is positive 3. Don't forget to square that because it's the Pythagorean theorem. And then plus. So instead of writing y minus negative 4, I'm going to rewrite that as y plus 4. So y plus 4 squared. And then that will equal 8 squared, which is 64. All right, for example 3, and you guys can feel free to pause this video at any time if you need to stop and process any of this information. So for example 3, we're asked to write the equation for the circle that's given to us on the graph. And again, all we need is the center and the radius. So the center, if we look, I have to get really close to it to look. The center is at 1, 2. 1, 2 in the first quadrant, all positive. And to figure out the radius, we want to pick a point that's either directly above the center, below the center, to the left, or to the right, because we don't want to have to try to use the Pythagorean theorem here. So if I just pick any of those, because they should all be the same length or distance, that is, from the center. If that's my radius, if I just count over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, my radius is 5. So for my equation, it will be x minus 1 squared plus y minus 2 squared equals 5 squared, which is, I'm actually just going to write it as 25. So don't forget to square that radius. It's a common thing people forget. All right, one last example. For example 4, we are asked to graph the circle. And anytime we graph a circle, we are going to really just graph 5 points on that circle. So the 5 points that we want to graph are the center. We always do that first. And then we want to graph the point that is directly above the center. So using the radius, we'll graph the point that is above, the point that is below, the point that is to the left, and the point that is to the right. All right, so let's pick out our center. Our center is our h and our k. So if that's x minus h squared, I know that's a positive 3, plus y minus k squared. So instead of a positive 2, I need to remember to change the sign. So that's a negative 2. That's our center. And then remember that r squared value is 36. So that's not our radius, that's our radius squared. So I need to take the square root, and our radius is 6. All right, so let's graph the center first. I'm gonna go on my graph. I might need to zoom in actually. I'm gonna go on the graph out to the point 3, -2. So right there, that's the center of the circle. And then I'm going to use the radius of 6. So we said the radius is 6. I'm gonna graph the points that are above, below, to the left, and to the right of that. So if from here, if I just go up 6 units, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can also go below 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. To the left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then lastly, to sketch the circle, just do your best to draw an arc. I have trouble doing this myself. So, that looks terrible. Told you. We're just gonna try to, draw an arc. Mine looks really bad. It would be easier if my tablet was flat right now, but it's not. All we can do is do our best. It's not gonna look beautiful unless you are just really good at freehand drawing, which I think I just demonstrated I am not. So that's it for this video.